Hey guys, I know this Sunday you were expecting a video on a tractor. The last video I did was on my tractor and I didn't finish it. Got the parts in, and I know y'all are probably anxious once it tuned in to see if I can get that tractor running or will it blow up. Well, so far I got the parts in and I had an extra day or two off before I went back to work. But I had to spend some time with my favorite two girls. Ended up not being able to finish it, and now I'm working. So I'll be probably making the next video after this one on the tractor, and you'll get to see if I get that thing running. But in the meantime, I figured, hey, I gotta give y'all something. So I decided to make some picadillo and some yellow rice with my wife. So you guys, if hopefully are interested, will get to learn one of our meals and how to cook it. Now, of course, like any meal, there's probably 1,000 ways to make them. But this is the way we make them in our house, and it's a good Mexican dish. Hope you'll enjoy it, and you gotta be well-rounded. You gotta be able to work on something, cut something up, weld something up, and why not cook something up? Get you some potatoes, go ahead and peel them. And in my case, in this dish, I'm gonna use a total of about 3, 2 big ones, 1 small. Chop them into little cubes, and that should do. So now you're going to take those potatoes, throw them into a frying pan and season them up. I'm using 20 sachets and some cumin because I'm being lazy. But if you don't have that, I usually use salt, pepper, some chili powder, some garlic, and some cumin. And of course, other variety of spices that you feel like would go good with this dish. And of course, season them to your taste. Now don't forget to add some oil. You can do that beforehand, or like I did, after the potatoes are already in there and spiced up. And then mix it all up so they all get the oil. Alright, now you can cover them up so they'll cook. And while they're cooking at a slow pace, we're going to cut up some of the vegetables that go in this dish. We're going to start with an onion. Well, by the time we're done, we'll have the onion, tomato, and some cilantro. And of course, you do this to taste as well. Alright, so after the onion's been cubed here, or part of it, we're now cutting up the cilantro. I don't like to cut up the big stem, so I cut mostly the upper 2/3. You will pre-wash the cilantro, of course, before doing this. Chop it up kind of fine. You will chop up, to taste. In my case, I'm using about a 1/3 to a 1/4 cup, and both of onions and cilantro. Now I'm doing the same with the tomato, and I'm going to use about 1/3 of the tomato to maybe 1/2. I'm going to throw in some bell pepper. I'm using about 1/3 of the bell pepper that we have, and that's actually what I had left over, but that's usually the amount I like in my dish. Starting to look pretty colorful, huh? Now don't forget, while you're doing this, you want to keep an eye on those potatoes that you throw in the frying pan. Every now and then stir them. They may stick a little to the bottom, but that's okay. And you want to cook them till they're almost done, to where they're starting to get soft, but they're still got a little crunch to them. You don't want to cook them all the way, so don't forget about them. Now I've had these guys on medium to low heat. That way they would be cooking while I was cutting up vegetables, but not cook too fast. Looks like they're pretty much there, so I'm going to remove them off the fire and just put them aside. After setting them aside, try 1 or 2 and see if they need a little more spice or a little more salt. I went ahead and added a little bit more salt for flavor. After scraping the pan up a little bit, I got it ready for the meat. I did throw these little crumbs into the other potatoes and kept them. Now as you're cooking the meat, you'll spice it up just like you did the potatoes. Now some of those spices will be lost in the juices and grease that the meat releases, and as you cook it, you may have to taste it at the end, and again, add spices to taste. At this point, you'll see that the meat releases a lot of fluid and juices. You can either remove them or continue to cook them till it goes dry. and then continue to cook that meat till it gets nice and brown. Now you can see the meat starting to really brown and pretty much is there or almost there. Now I've also realized I made so much between the vegetables, the potatoes, and this meat. We're gonna put it in a bigger pan. So far I think we have about 1.5 pounds or 1.75 pounds of meat, almost 3 potatoes, and of course the vegetables, 1/4 of an onion, about 1/4 or 1/3 to 1/2 a tomato, and so on. So we're gonna need more room. Now at this point, when the meat is pretty much almost done, we're gonna throw in the vegetables. Now you could have thrown them in earlier if you like to cook them a little bit further, but I like to throw mine in towards the end. They will still cook pretty much, as you'll see in a little bit. Now we've got all the Mexican colors going on right here. So now we'll cover it, let it cook a bit longer, about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll be set for the next move. And now you can see that the vegetables have cooked down and they've gotten a little softer and they're blending in. So things are looking good. Now at this point, you can add the potatoes that you had set aside and you can blend them all together as one dish. Now the reason we didn't add them at the very beginning is they would get too soft and it would just become one mushy blend of a dish. Now you can just let them maybe sit for a few more minutes and finish cooking, but for the most part the dish is done. So after a few minutes of letting them sit together, you want to taste and see if you need to add any more spices, salt or pepper, and again just add to taste, whatever you like, whatever you prefer, and you can serve the dish. Now we like to eat our picadillo with a side dish. Usually that's rice. So we're gonna fry up some rice and show you how we make it. We're gonna fry this rice until it browns a bit. You'll see in a minute. And we're also going to add some flavoring through chicken bouillon. Now some of these bouillons are hard to dissolve in the rice, so we're gonna put it in some water and break it up prior to putting it into the rice. It'll look like one little square like this. Usually 1 cup of rice to 1 bouillon. Here we're gonna, like I said, dissolve it in some water. My wife likes to actually microwave it, kind of get the water hot. As you can see now, the rice is browned up some. You can see the color change. This is the time we'll add that water with the bouillon cube that's been dissolved in it. 1 cup of water is what we start with. Total, we're gonna put 2 cups of water. So we're gonna put 1 more cup of water to this dish. So now as we're stirring the rice a bit and getting the water hotter, we're gonna add a few more spices yet through this Goya Sazón seasoning pack. And basically that's also what's gonna turn the rice yellow. 1 pack to that cup of rice with the 2 cups of water. Now once the mixture is complete, you'll bring the water to a slight boil, as you can see, and then we're going to cover and lower the heat to low, to medium low, and let the rice cook. And you'll cover it so all the water will not evaporate. You want to keep that rice from drying out. She usually does this for about 15 minutes, as you can see the timer. And now you can see the end result. You should have some moist cooked rice, and it looks so good. Now you can serve both dishes and enjoy with some corn tortillas.